out the details for a few minutes more before the woman exited, leaving the man alone. During the day, he was propped up against the headboard of his bed, slightly bent to the side because of his spine, but comfortable nonetheless. At the moment, he was more than comfortable. He was delighted. It would be a marriage of convenience, but there was another truth involved, one that he would never let her know. For the time he had left, he would know that she would be by his side. But that wasn't what caused him to sigh with a deep contentment. That came from another fact. He was going to marry the woman he had loved for years. Chapter 1. Tucker Mills, Massachusetts, 1840. Reese Kingsley stood in her bedroom and studied her shape in the tall mirror. Since she didn't carry extra weight, her protruding abdomen had been obvious in her 2nd month. Now, in her 4th month, she was beginning to look as though she might be carrying twins. She wasn't. She was sure of that. But the fact that her spouse was the size of a small mountain could explain the additional inches around her middle. As though thinking of him might make him appear, Connor Kingsley came to the door, looking for her. "Back in front of the mirror?" he teased quietly, which was his way. "What do you mean, back?" Reese turned her back on her reflection, working to look innocent. "I saw you in this same spot a few mornings ago," Connor answered, slipping his arms around her. "I'm sure you mistook me for someone else," she said. "I can see how that might happen." Connor went along as soon as he'd kissed her nose. "There are so many expectant women moving around this house." Reese smiled into his eyes, her own voice whispering that she loved him just before she slipped her arms around his neck. For a time, the two were in a world of their own, up to the moment when Connor's stomach rumbled. "Oh, my," Reese laughed. "I think I'd better get to the kitchen." "Troy started the coffee," Connor volunteered, referring to his business partner, who also lived with them. "If I wait long enough, will he start breakfast, too?" With a soft laugh and an arm around his wife, Connor moved them to the door. It was time to head downstairs to start the day. Maddie Randall held her small daughter lengthwise in her lap, bending slightly to speak into her small face. 3-month-old Valerie Randall smiled into her mother's eyes, not even remembering she was hungry. "You slept almost all night," Maddie congratulated her. "Didn't that feel nice? So much better than waking up before morning." Valerie smiled as though she'd helped out on purpose, and Maddie laughed in delight, scooping her close to kiss her tiny cheek. This was the way Jace Randall, proud husband and father, found them. "Well, good morning," he greeted, having just come downstairs. "You two are up early." "Yes, but not in the night, so we feel very rested." Jace bent and kissed Maddie, and then spoke to his daughter. "Val, tell your mother that you sleep through every night," he teased. "I never hear you, so you must not be waking up." Valerie gave another smile that assured her parents she was brilliantly taking in every word, and Jace, unable to keep his distance, took her in his arms. "Very soon now she'll figure out she's hungry," Maddie said, moving toward the stairs. "But I'm going to get dressed anyway." "We'll be just fine," Jace assured her, eyes still on the small bundle in his arms. Valerie was beginning to be quite distressed by the time Maddie came back down, but Jace only spoke softly into his daughter's crumpled face before handing her off when his wife made her appearance. Pastor Douglas Muldoon was sitting at the desk in his study, head bent over his Bible, when he heard the door. He looked up to see what looked like his wife's hand, but she didn't enter. Instead, it opened just enough to admit 15-month-old Jeffrey, who giggled and ran when he spotted his father and found himself scooped up into Douglas's arms. "How's my Jeff?" Douglas asked, pressing a kiss to his soft round cheek. The little boy hunched his shoulders with delight, smiling into his father's face. Douglas turned with the little boy to speak to Allison, his wife. "He was missing you," she informed him. "How could you tell?" "He goes to your chair at the dining table and tries to talk to you." Douglas laughed, and Geoffrey put his head on his father's shoulder. Douglas knew he wouldn't get any work done this way, but at the moment, it didn't matter. "How's your day going?" he asked of Allison. "I keep getting distracted." "By Jeff?" "Yes, and the garden. I think I put too much on my list." "Where's Hillary?" he asked about their daughter. "She's at Opal Berglund's, helping clean up after their kitchen fire." "It was kind of her to go." "Yes, it was, but I admit that I had big plans for the day." Douglas caught it then, his wife's oh-so-subtle attempt to get him to watch Geoffrey for a time. Douglas tried not to smile, but it wasn't going very well. Allison saw the smile that crept into his eyes and had to fight her own grin. "I have a sermon to prepare," he tried. "It's only Wednesday, and you've been working so hard on this subject, you know it backward and forward." "Nothing much gets by you, does it?" "Not when I'm trying to get into the garden," she answered with a coaxing smile. Douglas shook his head in mock exasperation and agreed. When Allison kissed him and left, he settled himself on the floor to play with his youngest son. It was no end of fun, but it also made him long for a swift return of his 3 middle children, who were visiting their grandmother in Boston. "Good morning, Dannan MacKay." Troy Thaden, who with Connor was one of Tucker Mills' bank managers, welcomed the new doctor. "Come have a seat by the desk." The men had spoken to each other many times at the meeting house and over meals, but never talked about Dannan's personal business interests. Today would be different. "How are you, Troy?" Dannan asked. "Doing well. Yourself?" "Fine. Still adjusting to a new town and letting folks adjust to a new doctor, but coming along." "How many months have you been here?" "Let's see." Dannan's head went back. "I've been here about 4 months, maybe a little more." "Is there anyone to visit back in Willow's Crossing?" "Just a cousin and his family. I might go to see them this winter if they don't visit here first." "How is it coming with your patients?" "Most of the time it's fine," Dannan informed him, even as he began to smile. "I had a woman yesterday who came to the office. I could tell she wanted something, but it took a while for her to tell me what it was. I guessed for the better part of 10 minutes about what might be bothering her, and she finally blurted it out." "Well, that's progress," Troy said, smiling in return. "Yes, but she also told me exactly how she felt about old Doc MacKay leaving, and that he had no business doing such a thing." "He heard plenty of that before he left, too." "Yes, I'm sure." "Now," Dannan began, "I won't take up more of your time on this. I'm wondering if the bank owns any small houses that it's trying to sell right now." "Looking to move?" "It's just a thought I had, and I don't believe my landlord wants to sell." "Have you asked Eli?" Troy asked. He knew Eli Peterson. Dannan's landlord owned several properties in town. "He just might want to discuss it." "As a matter of fact, I haven't met him. My uncle paid my rent for months down the road, so we never got around to my meeting him." "Well, it was just a thought. I have 2 houses, one that's available now and one that will be going on the market very soon. I can tell you about them right now or show them to you some other time." Dannan was on the verge of saying that he'd like to hear about them, but a man had rushed into the bank, and Dannan knew he was needed. "Is the doc here?" the man asked of the teller, even as Dannan and Troy both stood and were noticed in the office alcove. "There you are," the stranger said to Dannan. "Can you come? It looks like Kathy Shepard has broken her arm." "I'm on my way," Dannan replied with a calm that was genuine. "Thank you, Troy." He turned long enough to add, "I'll check back with you." "Certainly, Dannan. Maybe I'll see you at noon." Dannan agreed and slipped out the door. Troy and the bank teller, Mr. Leffler, walked to the front windows. They didn't speak, but their eyes were directed down the green toward the Shepard home and store, their hearts wondering how the accident had happened. "Hold still, Kathy," Doyle Shepard cautioned his